Et bonjour à tous, ici Adrien de Puri, Nouvelle-Zélande. On se retrouve aujourd'hui pour une vidéo très spéciale, le portrait de Peter, notre apiculteur de l'île du Nord, à 1h30 de Wellington, à Greytown précisément. On revient justement d'une journée apiculture qui était bien remplie, donc on va faire cette interview ensemble. Quel est son portrait, comment il en est arrivé là, quel est justement son métier avec ses abeilles, puisqu'il s'agit vraiment d'un apiculteur passionné et passionnant. On se retrouve tout de suite pour cette interview. Hello Peter, well, thanks today for this beekeeping sessions together. It was really nice, intense as well. We saw lots of happy bees and we are happy to have this interview with you today. First of all, how old are you? Where do you live? What have you been up to?
Okay, I'm 72. I tried to retire one time, not very successful. So I used to have 800 beehives in the South Island and sold most of those 7 or 8 years ago, and moved to the North Island to be close to my family and brought 16 beehives. And now I have 100 again, so
not bad.
Yeah,
especially for retiring.
Yeah, it's as a semi-retirement. It's a nice occupation as long as you have your health. You get to see the countryside and meet some nice people like we did today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's been very good for me having moved to a new district to get about and see the farmers and the other beekeepers and to get to know that whole community up here in North Island. Yeah.
So is it also a different way of doing beekeeping from South Island or North Island, or what are like the big differences from that change?
Yeah, there are differences, but as we saw today, there are still like family businesses that have been doing it for a long time, and they just working in their general area they have for their fathers and grandfathers, etc. But also in the North Island, there's some more big sort of corporate type businesses that are throughout the whole island, and they run on a different kind of model, I guess. But as far as the beekeeping goes, the fundamentals are the same, but every district you have to understand the geographical and climatic changes and adapt your beekeeping for a new place. So, but the basic skills are much the same. And so the beekeepers are much the same in that sense. Yeah.
But it's also something we saw today, that there are like, it varies a lot from the spots and different bee yards, from where you collect just Manuka, or is there other flowers in the line as well, so it makes it always kind of tricky.
Yeah. Well, New Zealand changes geographically and climatically quite quickly from place to place. You don't have to drive very far. You know, maybe in some bigger countries like Australia, you have to go 100, 200 kilometres to be different. Here you can go 10, 20 kilometres and quite different. And so your beekeeping adapts to those places, yeah.
How long have you been doing beekeeping, Peter?
I first had a hive or two as a hobbyist down in Dunedin, near Dunedin on the Otago Harbour. Probably I was 50 years ago now, yeah, at least. And then one summer holiday I went to work for a Dutch beekeeper. There's got a lot of Dutch beekeepers in New Zealand at that time especially. And I had a really nice summer holiday in beekeeping in Central Otago and basically fell in love with it from then. So that was the turning point for me. Yeah. From then on I worked for other beekeepers until I built up my own business. Yeah. Went overseas for a couple of years beekeeping.
You've dedicated most of your life doing beekeeping and research and promoting as well. New Zealand products.
Pretty well.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people in New Zealand, you try and do everything. You try and make the honey and make the bee boxes and raise the queens and sell the honey and export the honey and market the honey. But yeah, the one thing I've never done is have my own extraction plant. I've always contracted that out with friends and neighbours and stuff. So that's one part of the whole engineering side of it I've avoided. But almost every other aspect I've done, queen raising and breeding programs. And,
because it gets very technical, like the work of a beekeeper. You wouldn't know that when you just eat the honey. There's lots of stuff to know, right?
One of the, I guess, characteristics of the job is a huge variety of tasks and skills throughout the year. It's a lot of, and that makes it interesting and always gives you something different to look forward to. Yeah. Just when you're getting tired of doing some winter work, it's spring and everyone gets excited and, you know,
Just like the bees, you go out and start
you go
again.
up and down with the bees, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's like the bees, you know, spring arrives, the days get longer, it gets warmer, the flowers get going, and you get exciting as they get excited.
Yeah.
And then you may have a good year, you might have a bad year, and you just have to live with that result, and next year's always going to be better. That's how we keep the average up, because next year's going to be better.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, what do you like so much about doing beekeeping?
I think outdoor life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's nothing much more pleasurable than finding yourself in a nice environment with a nice job. That's something you've learnt the skills and you're comfortable and confident about doing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all good, you know, raining and cold, and you've got a job you have to do, and it's not always pleasant out there, but you know you're alive when
Especially
you're
in New Zealand,
out in
right?
the weather. Yeah. And it can be very changeable. Sometimes you might spend an hour sitting in the truck waiting for the rain to stop and then carry on again, sort of thing. Yeah. But yeah, the outdoor side of it is probably, and just the pleasure of working with the insect. I mean, fundamentally, you're trying to make life for the bees as good as possible. And so once you learn what they need and you attend to that as best you can, then they will do well, better than they would have done, and we get the benefit with some honey. So
they will reward you for that.
Yeah. So it's just a case of learning what the animal really needs and looking after it.
So do you have any fun stories to tell us about one of your beekeeping sessions?
I've made some big mistakes. Some of those are funny afterwards.
That's how you learn, right?
Yeah. I told you one today. Sometimes catching a swarm can be quite a challenge, you know, very high in a tree or something like that. And one time I went into this big area with Kanuka trees, like this one outside here, and it was really tall, and the swarm was really high, and I thought, I've got to catch the swarm. So I had a truck with a crane, you know, and I climbed up on the crane, stupid, to get as close as I could, holding a box above my head, trying to shake these bees, got the bees in the box, slipped, fell down on the deck of my truck, box on my head, bees on my head, thought, lucky to be alive. Didn't catch that swarm, you know, so you do the odd dumb thing once. Yeah. So yeah, I made a few silly. One other time I caught a swarm and then got it nicely in a nice little place, and next minute I turned the truck around and backed into it, knocked it over. Yeah. So you have to laugh afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Were you able to recover it, the swarm?
Usually do, yeah, because, you know, sometimes as long as you get the queen in there and the most of the bees in there, they will go in. I had another lovely swarm story I can tell you. I was driving on a country road and I thought I was seeing something on the tar seal, and I pulled up quick, and in the middle of the ground there's this big round dollop of bees right in the middle of the road. And I'm thinking, how and why? You never see a swarm in the middle of the road. So I put my hazard lights on and I parked the truck in the middle of the road so the traffic would go around it, and I put a box on the side of the road, and I got the bees and I put them in I picked them up bit by bit, and I put them all across the road, and I threw some in the box, and then I smoked them. And I got those bees to walk right across the road and into that beehive off the highway. I was so pleased with myself.
Almost like magic.
It was really cool, very satisfying.
Yeah,
so some good swarm stories. Yeah, that's always fun.
How many hives do you have, Peter, at the moment?
About 100, and I consider that a hobby level for me now.
Yeah.
I had 800, so it's manageable on a few days a week. And I have a good friend who helps me with the heavy work.
You had like 800 beehives just by yourself at some point.
Well, I had help in the summertime, and we did a lot of work with each other. So I would, if I was harvest time, I could get 2 or 3 friends to come out for the day, and so that big hard work we had. I didn't do it by myself. But a lot of the spring work and things like that, you just work away at it one day at a time and get the work done. Yeah.
And you would help your friends like the bees would do as well.
Yeah. No, we were very down south. We had really a very collegial group of friends. Like, we would help each other out. Anyone had any problems, we would look after their bees for them for a while or something like that. So it was made it a good community to work with. Yeah.
So it's not only a bee story, but it's a human story as well.
Yeah. Well, back then especially, beekeeping was quite an unusual occupation. And if you met another beekeeper, it's like, oh, another beekeeper, like, it was like a bit of kind of fascination about it. But But nowadays there's so many beekeepers, it's kind of like, you know, every farm has bees on it and there's beekeepers everywhere.
Yeah.
But back then there wasn't, it was a bit of a more of an unusual occupation, I think, considered by the general public as more unusual. Yeah.